We've seen it in movies, and in this present day, red flag, green flags are like a staple, comment and conversations that people have. Oh, he's a red flag boyfriend, he's a green flag boyfriend, she's a red flag girlfriend. But we usually see these tags a lot given to men. But some of the behaviors that we see in the movies that we watch sometimes reinforce or blur the lines between red flag, green flag. Case in point, I was watching a Cdrama, this, the normal dramas where rich CEO attracted to poor upcoming girl. He's a lawyer, she's a lawyer, she was his assistant, they fell in love, blah, blah, blah. But because people found out they were dating, she started getting victimized at the office, she resigns. But he took it personally and kept trying everything to make sure she comes back to the office. But she kept reinforcing that I want a separate life. I don't want to be labeled as your woman. I want my own career. But he wasn't listening, And that's one of the things about red flag boyfriends. Typically, we would look at that situation and say that, oh, he was just being supportive. He's trying to let her, get the best in life, get a good career, be stable, fix her problems. But she didn't want it, really. She didn't ask for it. She didn't want it. She felt that she was living in his shadow. But the more he tried to make life comfortable for her, the more she resisted because she didn't like it. It wasn't what she wanted. She moves to a new organization, and on the first day, she's okay. Their relationship is a little bit stable now. And first day, she's like, "Let's keep our relationship under wraps. I don't want people to know that I'm dating you because I don't want the same treatment I got from the other place to follow me here. People looking at me in your shadow." First day, she's at work. He announces that she's his girlfriend, and I was screaming into my pillow because I was like, that is toxic behavior. But in the day in the days that we live in, with all the dramas and the media that we watch, it's seen as romantic. He was being jealous because he wanted to let people know that she was taken in her workplace, but she didn't want it because, again, people now started identifying her as his woman and not as a lawyer, and she had to work a little bit harder to get the acceptance from everybody. Again, she wins an award or something, and they want to celebrate, and he finds out where they are celebrating, and he goes and books out the entire place so that they will not have an opportunity to, meet together and bond as an organization. He wanted to crash that again. And I'm saying this because when we watch a lot of these dramas and shows, we all say, oh my God, he's being jealous, he's being protective, and we find it cutesy funny. But in real life, if we transfer that scenario into real life, we would call it love bombing. We'll call it that he's not listening to her. He's not being aware. He's a red flag. He's not a romantic boyfriend because he is doing everything opposite of what she didn't want. She wanted to stake her claim in her relationship, in her work, and wanted to be a separate individual, but he was always trying to fix her problem, always trying to inject himself into her work. They found themselves at opposite ends of the law, two clients, but he was telling her to drop out of the case because she would lose if she stands against him because he's a known name in the industry and in the city. So I say this to say this: red flags have become a little blurred, right? In dramas, we excuse a lot of those things, but in real life, it really is a red flag. And what are the signs of you being in a red flag relationship, either with a man or with a woman? It's love bombing, not realizing the boundaries that you have. There are boundaries within relationships for a reason, so that everybody can have a sense of safety or a place for them. Relationship does not mean that I lose or you lose your identity. It means that we come together, we share things together, but we still find time to be separate and be ourselves and do our own things. Love bombing is a very major red flag, but people see it that, oh, he loves you too much. But when it's a little excessive, when it's now not respecting your boundaries, then definitely it is a red flag. Manipulation, excuse me, is also a red flag. Trying to make things look like you are at fault, and also it has it has leanings also, and is mixed in with the blame game and shifting blame. So you manipulate my opinions, manipulate the way I feel about certain things so that it suits you. Case in point, again, the drama I was watching, and if you're interested, I think the drama's name is called My Boss. It's a C-drama. It's romantic, it was nice, but towards the ending, I don't know, the coach and therapist in me was just like cringing at all the signs that I was seeing, because maybe a few years ago, I would have said, oh my God, it's so romantic. And there's some people who will watch it and say that, oh my God, it's so romantic. But no, it's a red flag. Because what we see about green flags is that, oh, they are nice guys, they are so caring, they want the best for the lady. But sometimes, even in their wanting the best for their female partners, for the people that they love, is also done excessively and is also a problem. Yeah? So excessive jealousy is also a part of what we see as a red flag situation. In case in point, she had a colleague she was working with. They were they were close, they were former close classmates or something, and he just became excessively jealous. He didn't want her to spend time with him, was asking if she was spending lunch with him, etc., and so forth. But as a functioning, working professional, I'm supposed to interact with both male and female co-workers. I'm supposed to have lunch sometimes with my co-workers. I will go for hangouts with my co-workers because it is part of the work culture. It's part of the things that are expected in a workplace. But he was excessively jealous that she was spending time with her colleague because both of them were in a team together and they were succeeding. But she didn't. The thing is, if you are jealous, there should be a reason, right? In my book, right? She didn't give him any reason to be jealous. She's doing her job. She was excelling at her job. She communicated with him about everything that was happening at work. So there was no reason for him to suspect or be jealous. She wasn't giving favoritism to the so-called colleague, but he was excessively jealous, showing up at her workplace, interjecting herself at his work. Oh my God, it was so much, and it was so annoying. Again, it can be seen as romantic and all, but excessive jealousy is a massive red flag, and it should be frowned at, and it should be addressed from the beginning of a relationship. Because I digress a little, because relationships will fail if certain conversations are not had from the very beginning. For example, if you are love bombing and you notice it as a partner, you say, oh my God, this is a little excessive. Can we like tone it down a bit? If this is the way you show love, it's a little excessive for me, and we set the boundaries, from the beginning. If you're excessively jealous, I'll ask a question like, okay, so what can I do to make you trust me more, for you to feel more comfortable in this relationship, so that you will not feel excessively jealous and you will be able to freely allow me interact with every other person in life. Things like that. Communication will help in situations like this, because some certain people or people would be in this kind of relationship situations and just accept it, even if it makes them uncomfortable. But relationships are supposed to make you a better version of yourself, enhance you, make you feel loved, make you feel beautiful, make you feel satisfied with, life generally, not make you feel, shriveled. Because at a point in the relationship, she started doubting herself, she started questioning herself, she felt inferior to him because he was always trying to solve a problem and make her feel disrespected. And the more she had those conversations about disrespect, he kept saying he never disrespected her because he didn't see it as disrespect. He saw it as love. But the more she said it, and I think her sister gave him an analogy to further understand the situation a little more, and he began to see that him showing up excessively, trying to interject into her life, making statements around her competency on her job, were a little bit excessive and were the things that she found disrespectful. To him, he thought he was offering protection and love and support, but to her, he was offering, but she saw it as him, disrespecting her. Yeah. Another thing that we see in relationships as a red flag is defensiveness. Yeah. Where your partner calls you out for a situation or something that they do not like, and instead of, listening, yeah, and saying, okay, is this the reason that you had this issue? Is that the reason you had this issue? Okay, so we can work around it, we can solve it. No, instead you defend your position. The thing about being defensive is that you've already picked a position and you're not willing to learn or hear anyone else's perspective. It's my way or the highway kind of situation. So you've picked a position, whatever it is the person is saying, you are not listening, you're not hearing it, you're just going with whatever it is that is, happening at the back of your mind. So your partner's, again, case in point in this situation, she's saying you are disrespecting me, and the only thing he's hearing is that she's not appreciating his effort, she's not appreciating the good things he's doing for her to make her life better. So he kept defending his position and defending his position and defending it over and over again until I think they took a break at a particular point. So I think some of the points that I've mentioned here as red flags, defensiveness, love bombing, overly jealous, and not respecting boundaries are some of the major signs of red flags, or maybe not major, but they are very subtle. The very manipulative and manipulation, and the very emotionally manipulative ones are where you start gaslighting and making the person that you are dating or married to begin to question their sense of reality or what is right or their mindset or their mentality, because you begin to twist their sense of reasoning and their belief and their space, and they begin to doubt themselves until they become totally reliant and dependent on you as a partner. So that is like an extreme form of, red flags. So I hope you found this helpful in some way, and you can use this as kind of like a, just like a template or something to review your relationships or situationships that you are in, and see how these things may be showing off, that these red flags may be showing off, but you may not be seeing it as red flags, right? Again, like I said, I blame the media because it's so subtly coded into the movies that we watch, and it's disguised as care, romance, and love, while in reality, if we transfer these situations into like real life situations, they tell a totally different story. So anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.